I went through and analyzed over 126,000 LinkedIn conversations to figure out what actually gets someone to book a sales meeting with you. The biggest thing we found is that one specific message had the highest positive reply rate across every single group we looked at. Now, to give you some context, we run a platform called Valley that sends LinkedIn outreach for our customers, and we manage over 1,000 LinkedIn accounts doing it. So we took every reply from 13,877 of those campaigns, and that came out to 126,113 conversations. Then we sorted each one into interested or not interested and looked at what the messages people replied positively to had in common. So in this video, I'm going to go over everything we found from this research so you can apply all the insights to your own outreach and start booking way more calls. I'll go through the industries and countries that reply the most, the 4 things you should never put in your first message based on the data, and the exact messages copy that booked the most meetings. Let's get into it. The first thing we found is that only 28% of the replies came from someone who was actually interested, meaning about 7 out of every 10 people who wrote back were basically saying no. So the important thing to remember is that your reply rate on its own barely tells you anything, because a no counts exactly the same as a yes. Now, what we found is that the first thing that changes how many of those replies come back interested is the industry you are reaching out to. Education was the highest at 36.5%, and computer games, technology companies, and investment banking were all above the average too. So if you sell to more than one industry, definitely build your list out of those ones. Now, where someone is based mattered even more. India was the highest by a mile at 58.2%. The UAE, Brazil, and Mexico were all over 40%, and Canada and the UK were both around 35%. The United States came in at 25.6%, below the average. So if you're going to sell outside the US, put those countries on your list because you'll get a lot more interested replies. Now, if the US is your only market, none of that helps you, of course, because you're already selling into the most saturated market. The people on your list already get a ton of outreach, so whatever you send has to be way better than what everyone else is sending them. That's why sending the right message is so important, which I'll get into in a second. Then there's the job level of the person you're messaging. VPs came in at 20% and directors at 24%, both under the average. Founders and C-level were the highest at around 30%, and the people doing the actual day-to-day work replied just as often. So the VPs and directors in the middle are the people you wouldn't want to reach out to. Now, the problem is that job title searches on LinkedIn are pretty broad, so it's easy to end up with a list full of those middle titles without meaning to. What you want to do instead is go a step up to the founder or the C-level executive, or a step down to the person who would actually use what you sell. Also, the kind of job someone does matters too. Salespeople came back interested the least out of everyone in the study at just 19%. They see cold outreach all day, so they can spot a templated message instantly. On the other hand, engineering and product people replied with interest more than anyone else in the study. So if you sell to sales teams, expect fewer interested replies than average. Now, if you put all of that together, the person you are actually after is a founder or the person who would use what you sell at a technology, education, gaming, or finance company, ideally outside the US and not in a sales role. And there's no single search on LinkedIn that gets you all of that at once, but you can just describe exactly who you're looking for in a sentence and have Valley go find those people for you using a feature we added called the Valley Deep. You type out the kind of company and the kind of person you want, and it searches the open web for companies, showing signs they would want what you sell, then finds the decision makers at each one. So you could write something like, find companies that launched a new product in the last 6 months, where the founder has posted about scaling their outbound, and you would get back those companies and the exact people to message, including ones that never come up in Apollo, ZoomInfo, or Sales Navigator. You can also set that search to run again every day, week, or month, so new companies get found and messaged without you doing anything. By the way, if you want to try out Valley for yourself, I'll leave a link at the top of the description where you can book a demo with our team. Anyway, let's keep going. Alright, so all that information was about who you should put on your lead list. But now let's talk about what you should actually send them. And there were 4 things in that data that made people a lot less likely to reply positively. The first one is sending a connection request with no note. With Founders, a blank request took their interested replies from around 30% down to under 10%. So now they are replying worse than VPs, and VPs were already the lowest job level. Now, most advice out there tells you to do the opposite, because blank requests do get accepted more often than a request with a note. But getting accepted means nothing if they still have no idea who you are. So just write the note. You'll get fewer connections and more conversations. Next up is opening with a problem they have. These are the messages that start by telling someone you notice they are struggling with their outbound, or that teams their size usually have trouble hitting pipeline targets. That one got even fewer interested replies, both with Founders and on InMails. InMails are the paid messages LinkedIn lets you send to someone you're not already connected to. And it makes sense because someone you've literally never met is telling you what's wrong with your company. So if you are going to reference a problem, reference something they've actually said in a post, on a podcast, or in a job listing they wrote. Then there's asking for meeting, or sending a free guide in the very first message. A booking link in the first message cut Founders' interested replies almost in half, and offering a free guide was even worse. The guide one surprised us because it feels generous, but you're still asking a stranger to spend time on something, and now they have to figure out what you want in return. The messages that worked best kept first ask small, so aim for a question they can answer in one line without committing to anything. Now, the 4th thing you don't want to do with your outreach is follow up too many times. If someone hasn't replied after 2 messages, a 3rd and a 4th aren't going to change their mind. So cap the sequence at 2 and just send those extra messages to someone new instead. So that's what's to take out of your messages. The one thing to put in though is an opener based on something you and the other person actually have in common. Across all of the data, it took interested reply rates from 28% up to 48%, the highest we have seen. Now, a lot of people hear personalization and think about getting some random detail of someone's profile, and that does help, but a detail is only about them, and something shared is about both of you. So this could be a person you both know, a group you're both in, an event you both attended, maybe a customer you both work with, or a post of yours they commented on last week. That gives them an actual reason you're in their inbox. The only problem is that finding something you have in common with someone takes a decent amount of work for every single person. That's why only about 1 in every 100 of these messages open that way. So the way we handle that is by only messaging people who already showed some kind of interest, also known as warm outbound. That's anyone who viewed your profile this week, commented on one of your posts, engaged with a competitor's post about the exact problem you solve, or started following you after a post. This way, you never have to go looking for something in common because it's the reason they ended up on your list in the first place. Then you still have to write the message, and that's the part I would recommend using Valley for, because it just fully handles this for you at scale. Say someone commented on a post I wrote about cold email deliverability. A lot of people would follow that up with something like, hey, saw you commented, want to hop on a call? But really, the message that's actually going to get you a reply sounds more like this. You mentioned on my post that your team gave up on cold email after all your emails started going to spam. Curious what you moved to that after? That's one line of shared context and a question they can answer in about 5 seconds. Here's another one. Say you and the other person both commented on the same post about how long it takes to build a decent lead list. The message would be something around the lines of, hey, we both ended up in the comments on that post about lead lists. You said your team loses most of your Mondays to it. Is that still happening? The principle here is the same. One line of shared context and a question they can answer without thinking about it. On InMails, the messages between 30 and 35 words did best, and the longer ones did worse. That's only about 3 sentences. So in summary, if you want to send the best possible message to the best possible prospect on LinkedIn, here's what to do. Message a founder or the person who would actually use what you sell at a technology, education, gaming, or finance company, and outside the US if that's an option for you. Send the connection request with a note on it. Open with something you both have in common. Keep the whole thing to about 3 sentences and make them ask a question they can answer without thinking too hard. Then stop after 2 messages. And if you only change one thing after this video, make it your opening line, because a good opener is what made the single biggest difference on every group of people in the starter. Now, if you want to nail this whole checklist in the easiest way possible, that's why we built Valley. It finds the people already showing interest in what you sell, plus anyone else who matches the description you give it, and writes each of them a personalized opener. So, if you want to be able to put your outreach on autopilot and simply focus on the positive replies you get back, click the first link in the description to book a demo with Valley. It's been trained on the 500,000 positive replies we have generated for our customers, so it already knows exactly what works based on the people you sell to. It also gets better and better based on what's actually working inside your account. So again, if you want to book a demo with Valley, I'll leave a link at the top of the description. And if you want to see this exact approach running at scale, then check out this video next.